Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind the scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
We're in Way Media. Welcome back, midnight viewers, to Fusco Fest. Do we have a theme song, HP? Do we have a Fusco Fest theme? Something bluesy?
We we don't have anything. I don't know. You're producing these. What do you think? What do you want?
Something bluesy, obviously.
Oh, I can provide you. Remember, after we did Crossroads, I sent you Too Late. I sent you a little blues thing that I'd worked up. We could use that. That's kind of bluesy.
Man. Work it into a 30-second thing. You'll hear that on the next Fusco Fest, everybody. I'm keeping all of this in, buddy. This is Fusco Fest here on Midnight Viewing. Joining me, as always, is our best friend from fucking 30 years or so now, Mr. HP. He's from Noise Junkies, and he's also from Night Mr. Walters, a taxi podcast.
Very, 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 very excited. I'm always excited to do Fusco Fest, but it's been a while, Father Malone, so I'm very excited to talk some Fusco with you, sir.
Now, so far on Fusco Fest, hey, everybody, in case you don't know what the fuck we're talking about, we're discussing the works of Mr. John Fusco, screenwriter extraordinaire. Turns out that HP and I have a shared love of all of the man's work, basically, and figured why not dive in. So far, in chronological order, we've been doing them, and we've had Crossroads, Young Guns 2, and next up is, of course, Thunderheart, which is why we're doing the Babe. No, we're just doing things a little bit out of order. We've got a special guest on our Thunderheart episode, and that's a really fucking good movie, and it deserves a little extra attention, so we didn't want to rush through it just for the sake of fucking some arbitrary rule about chronology. So instead, we are doing the Babe, starring James Cromwell, about a tiny pig on a farm in New Zealand, I believe. No, wait. We're doing the Babe, about Babe Ruth, starring James Cromwell, about a guy who likes to hit balls. HP. If I were to ask you who are the greatest ball players of all time, is Ruth on there? Talking about Babe Ruth, everybody. Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. I'm not the biggest baseball fan. I'm more of a casual fan.
Get off of this podcast right now.
Okay, but yeah, I think for the casual fan like myself, sure, Babe Ruth is one of the more prodigious names that you'll hear. And also being from Boston or being from the Boston area, we have our own checkered history with the Bambino, which I hate that nickname, I got to tell you. But yeah, I would say Babe Ruth is one of the greats. I mean, his home run record lasted until what, like 1974, and that's pretty remarkable. So yeah.
The Bambino, not your favorite. How about the Sultan of SWAT?
See, when you start to give me the Sultan of SWAT, I start to hear all the names that Apollo Creed had for himself in
Like
Rocky.
what? Oh, give us some.
The Master of Disaster, the Ayatollah of Fistola or something.
Jesus
I don't know what
Christ, calm down, Apollo. Okay, so we are talking about The Babe. This is from 1992. Written as always, as all of the movies here on Fusco Fest, is written by Mr. John Fusco. This one was directed by Arthur Hiller, starring John Goodman, Kelly McGillis, Trini Alvarado, Bruce Boxleitner. How excited were you when Bruce Boxleitner showed up in the fucking movie?
I was so excited because, full disclosure, this was my first time watching The Babe. I missed it in its initial run. So I was very excited to see Tron up there on the screen, or what, Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Bruce Boxleitner, very much an 80s guy. So I was very excited to see Bruce up there.
I can do no wrong. As I mentioned, James Cromwell shows up in it for a bit. Ralph Marrero as Ping. I'm only bringing up Ralph Marrero because my late wife, Jessica, could not pronounce the name of my favorite filmmaker, which was George Romero. She would always say George Marrero. So to see a man named Ralph Marrero in this film, I thought, wow, Jessica would have had a ball. Anyway, this is the story of George Ruth, the Babe Ruth, who the house that Ruth built, the Yankees, he pointed once at the outfield and said, I'm going to hit that ball. And then he hit that ball.
Where did he come from? Where'd you come from, Rook?
From out of nowhere.
We play inside ball. Hit them where they ain't.
Well, they ain't over the fences, so that's where I hit them. I used to get arrested for that. Now they give me a check.
From a boy.
He isn't all the bet in his life.
To a man.
That ball is out of here!
Babe Ruth.
Yeah, I know. You're making more money than the president.
Here's to you, fellas. Let's have a hell of a season. Anyway!
He lived his life
Was that big ape out on a rampage last night?
like he played the game.
What the hell are you gonna do with a son of a gun like that?
You're still a big kid with 44 home runs and the saddest eyes I've ever seen.
I don't even like baseball, but I love to watch you sacco.
You're out! You better get your eyes checked.
You're at it again.
Why's everybody ride me? I ain't hurt nobody! I ain't hurt nobody!
You are incorrigible.
You are washed up!
Babe's gonna sock you a home run. Does that make you feel better, Johnny? 2?
Are you Santa Claus?
That's good. Well,
Well, no, kiddo. I'm Babe Ruth.
he ain't human, he's an animal. He's a god.
The man was a legend.
Here, pass them out to all the fellas, will you, man?
The legend was real. John Goodman, the Babe.
Sorry to break in. I believe that is actually not a true fact. There's a few things like that we're going to get into, but that actually, it's my understanding that he did not, in fact, truly call his shot. He did point to the pitcher to say, oh, strike one, strike two, but it's unclear whether he truly called his shot or was just gesturing to the pitcher to say, let's do this. So just one little bit of inaccuracy I have to break in about.
Now,
Sorry.
This was your first time watching the film. This was also my first time watching the film. I remember when the film came out, I remembered a bit of hoopla around it. I certainly remember Janine Garofalo excoriating the film in that she was talking about the treatment of women in cinema and how they were expected to maintain a ridiculous body image when John Goodman had to lose weight to play Babe Ruth, and he's still too fat.
He's way too big because I went back to just to refresh my memory and I looked at pictures of Ruth in his prime, and he's they make him out to be this moose in the Babe, but he really wasn't. He wasn't crazy. I mean, compared to modern day athletes, sure, he was probably a bit big, but he wasn't as massive as John Goodman is. And the fact that he had to lose weight, which I think is a funny irony about this movie, but I thought that was kind of silly.
You know who he reminds me of looking at the actual Babe Ruth, his body type? He reminded me of John Belushi.
Yeah, like younger John Belushi.
Right.
The
Everyone
early
talks about
days.
anytime a fat comedian makes the scene, suddenly they're the next John Belushi because he was the fat comedian, right? I go back and I look at him and I go, he's just fucking big. He's just a big dude. But it seems to be mostly muscle under there because he's doing fucking backflips.
Yeah, same thing goes for Babe Ruth. He was a solid individual, a guy who could knock the hell out of the ball. So sure, he's going to be big, but big doesn't mean fat. It doesn't mean overweight.
So this was your first experience as it was mine. What'd you think?
It was interesting. First thing I did before I even started watching it, let me back up a minute. I was surprised to see that Arthur Hiller had directed it. I completely spaced on that. Obviously, I know him through Reputation. Of course, he did Love Story. He did Silver Streak. Do you remember Silver Streak with Gene Wilder? Of course you do.
Naturally, yeah. Richard Pryor, absolutely.
And then a funny connection to our Night Mr. Walters podcast. He also did Teachers, which featured Judd Hirsch in a role.
That's right, and I love that movie. I love a lot of Arthur Hiller's movies. Actually, The Lonely Guy, I think, is an underrated Steve Martin gem that he did. He also did The In-Laws, for God's sake, with a fucking Alan Arkin, fucking Peter
Falk. Yeah, it's amazing. So the pedigree was pretty solid as far as I was concerned. I was kind of excited. By the way, fun fact: Arthur Hiller he used to golf with my Uncle Martin. I don't know if I ever told you that story.
I remember Uncle Martin, but I didn't know that he once golfed with Arthur. That's amazing.
A fun fact. Yeah, I don't remember how it came up. He just was talking about some guy that he was golfing with, who at the time, Arthur Hiller was the president of the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. So that was where my Uncle Martin thought that I would be interested in it, but then come to find out that it was Arthur Hiller who had done all these amazing pictures. My Uncle Martin couldn't have cared less. I think he was just happy to have somebody to golf with. But
that's
but
always the way, isn't it? Like you see Bill Burr in Star Wars, and you're just like, he does not give one shit about Star Wars.
No, but I mean, you can tell he loves it in interviews and stuff. But so Arthur Hiller directed. Haskell Wexler was the DP on this picture.
Yeah, man.
Matewan and The Heat of the Night, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This movie had some pedigree. Elmer Bernstein did the music, for God's sake. This seemed like a can't miss proposition to me coming into this, Father Malone. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I had some problems with the picture, which we'll break down. I think first and foremost, if the first thing that I had a problem with was John Goodman. Not to say that John Goodman isn't a fine actor. He's a fantastic actor. But as we just got through saying, he was not. So he has to play Babe Ruth from basically age 19 through age, I don't know, 51 or 48 or something. Or he's in his mid, I think his mid 40s when he ended his career with the Boston Braves.
No, I don't think so. He was 19 in 1925, I believe, or 24 when he starts his career. And then his career is over in 1935. So that's 16 years, making him 37 or 36. My math is terrible. Nevertheless, he not yet 40.
Oh, okay. But that makes it even more vexing because John Goodman isn't believable at 19. He looks terrible. He looks like somebody who's had a lot of makeup applied. He's too big. They squeeze him into this suit. It didn't work for me. And then you're having him play.
He's 40, by the way.
John Goodman is 40
he is older than Babe Ruth was. Babe Ruth died before getting to the age John Goodman is when he's going to play Babe Ruth nearly for his entire lifespan.
I'm not surprised because I thought he looked every bit his age because he's playing next to Bruce Boxleitner, who's supposed to be his contemporary. He's playing another actual ball player named Jumpin' Joe Dugan. And
What a great name, man. They had great names back then.
they really did. But he's up there in his prime. He's supposed to be in his 20s. And he partially the way he's shot, the way the makeup looks on him, the dye that they use for his hair, it just was so unconvincing to me, Father Malone. And it really, unfortunately, that part of it tended to take me out of the picture. He didn't lose himself in the role. I think somebody should be able to disappear into the character of Babe Ruth to make it believable. But let me ask you, how did you find John Goodman, his performance, his appearance, what have you?
I think he's wildly miscast. I don't think he looks anything like Babe Ruth. I don't think he comes off like Babe Ruth. My problem is maybe that for the majority of the film, Babe Ruth is an uncouth thug of a human being. And John Goodman is just play acting at being a thug of a human being. And I never believe it. Somebody like Dennis Franz could have played Babe Ruth. And I would have bought into every bit of everything untoward about him, everything just gross and unrefined. I would have bought, and I would have maybe given it the credence I would have given the credence to somebody like Robert De Niro in Raging Bull.
True, I agree. Because I think John Goodman fundamentally is such a likable actor, such a likable presence that I think what you said about him play acting towards being this unrefined brute of a man, because we see him do an awful lot of things that we don't agree with. I guess Fusco should be given some credit for making this a truly warts and all depiction of Babe Ruth. This is not really this. You could not call this hagiography. You're getting the worst of it, but that's also, I think, part of the problem because he's so thoroughly unlikable that I don't enjoy spending any time with this character. So that as a viewer, that's a real negative.
Kind of a big problem when he's our lead.
Right. It
you
is.
Know what?
But
here's the thing. But Travis Bickle, I always go back to Taxi Driver. Travis Bickle is also a despicable character who you would not want to spend 1 minute of your life beside. And yet I'm with that fucking guy. I feel his pain. I understand his isolation and I want more somehow. Whereas this is just a fucking kind of an asshole, unrepentantly, provocatively rude at times.
To the degree where I started to wonder, does he have something wrong with him? Something seriously clinically wrong with him in his head? Because he's, especially early on, he's childlike. He doesn't understand the ways and means of social interaction. But the things he does are so far over the top, gross and mean-spirited in some cases, and just it's hard for me to see what the other characters saw in him besides the fact that he was a home run machine, that he was a hell of a ball player. But otherwise, I kind of sympathize with these managers that are shown in this who are supposed to, I'm assuming they're supposed to be antagonists where, hey, let Babe be Babe, let him do his thing. But I'm like, no. Babe he made a commitment to the team. He's got to show up on time. He's got to be in shape. He's got to take it seriously. But he does none of those things. And maybe that's true to the actual individual Babe Ruth, but that doesn't make for fun watching. It was frustrating to me more often than not.
I couldn't understand the point of view at times. There's a scene where he is being shown off by Frazee, the owner of the Red Sox, and there's a fancy cotillion going on with all these stuffed shirts, and he's showing off Babe Ruth, and he's given Babe Ruth a joke to recite once they get him up on stage, but he forgets the joke. So instead, he does the only joke he really knows is a surefire winner. Pull my finger. And he farts, and everyone is just disgusted by it. And then he's a little embarrassed, and then end of scene. And I kept thinking, am I supposed to be the audience perspective and find this behavior boorish, or am I supposed to be with him sticking it to the stuff shirts? Like, why can't they take a joke? I didn't know.
The movie doesn't really take a side on that because we're supposed to cheer him for his achievements, but at the same time, are we supposed to condemn his off the field antics? Because a lot of that, I'm sure, is totally true. That he was a womanizer. He did indulge his passions maybe a little too much. But I just found, and that was another thing that I found a little confusing, Father Malone, is this is a baseball movie. Now, at the time, you probably remember, baseball was big in the movies around this time. There were so many movies. There was Little Big League, there was A League of Their Own, The Sandlot, Rookie of the Year, Mr. Baseball. Baseball was big in the movies.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
Bull Durham.
Huge. And some of these are bona fide
Major
classics.
League.
Which I think is probably one of my favorites because that seems for me that's truest to the idea of the game and the players of the game. It's just funny. It's a fun movie.
All right, what? Stop. Before you go further, let's do it. What's the best baseball movie?
The best baseball movie. Ooh.
Now,
HP,
of
any time period or
okay. Yeah, best movie that you've enjoyed about the sport of baseball. You are a sports fan. You know me. I cannot stand sports. I don't get it. I just don't understand them at all. But I fucking love sports movies. Doing the research. I already have my answer.
No, I anticipated this, but now I remember it. My favorite baseball movie, The Natural.
That seems to be a lot of fans' favorite baseball movie.
What's yours?
And why is that?
Oh, why is that? Because I think it captures, if not the actual grandeur of the game, it captures it captures the mythology behind the game. These larger than life characters. I love the character of Roy Hobbs because he's so larger than life. He's got that bat, Wonder Boy, I think it's called. He hits. There's something very iconic about that character, and I think the managers of the team they all feel real. All the actors inhabit their roles, as I think they feel authentic to me. That's what I'm trying to say. It's larger than life, and I just think it's shot really well. The soundtrack is amazing. I hate to use the word again, but it's iconic. The scene where he hits the ball into the lights at the end, you can't get any better than that for me for a baseball movie. Not an all-time sports movie necessarily, but if you're limiting me to baseball, that's the one for me.
Certainly that shot of him hitting the ball that bursts the lights over the field is one of the most beautiful images in any sports movie ever. I totally agree with that. My favorite baseball movie, however, is from 1988, and that's 8 Men Out.
That's a good one.
Written and directed by John Sayles about the Black Sox scandal of 1919, which is contemporary to this.
But what makes you appreciate that one over some of these more sort of popular choices? What is it about 8 Men Out that speaks to you?
It shows, okay, first of all, I love this time period. So that's the thing I really did respond to in The Babe as well. Something about those uniforms and that time period and just seeing a crowd shot of men in boaters cheering us on. Something about that, the 1919, early 20s time period is great. Second, it's John Sayles, who is one of the best out there. He always has been. We should probably cover him at some point. And I love that scandal. I love it. It's the first time we realized that there was major corruption going on in this most beloved of American pastimes, that there was something deeper and darker going on. And it also manages to me, embody the spirit of baseball, because in the form of John Cusack's character, whose name I can't remember right now, but he's the sort of one decent guy who gets fucked at the end by the thing. And well, I guess Shoeless Joe did too. But anyway, I don't know. I love that movie. I love the drama of it because it is a sports movie. We get tons of great sports shit. It's also a courtroom drama. It's also this like corporate political intrigue movie. I don't know. One thing I really like about it is the stuff on the ball field is really well shot and it feels vital and makes you feel like you're like at the game. And crossover with Night Mr. Walters, Christopher Lloyd is in it as I don't know if he's playing Arnold Rothstein, but he's one of Rothstein's guys.
I got to go back and rewatch that. That is a great choice that never even occurred to me. But what you just said takes me to one of my big problems with the Babe is that the on the field stuff, the actual ball games, they seem totally disinterested in giving us any sort of context with any of his achievements or any of the sort of psychology in any of these games. I don't, every scene that takes place on the ball field is completely interchangeable for me, unless they had the little text on the bottom of the screen that tells me it's the Tigers versus the Sox in 1917 or whatever. It all looked the same to me. And it all boils down to him just getting a few pitches, strike one, strike two, boom, he hits a home run. Every scene felt like that to me. There was no interesting coverage of the game, giving me a flow, something to get my blood pumping, to get excited about what's happening on the field. There was none of that. What was your take on the field action?
It's the thing that could have saved the movie. If I hate to say it because we praised him pretty heavily at the top, but Arthur Hiller was the wrong guy to direct this movie. This is a situation where it just seems like everyone who seemed perfect was the incorrect choice. Because Arthur Hiller is a great, like, with comedy and physical comedy, but he's not like the greatest crafter of images necessarily. I didn't feel any of the electric snap you get when you're playing sports or watching sports, not one time. There was nothing
Agreed.
magical going on. There needed to be some fucking magic. And that doesn't come from the script or the actors. The fucking filmmaker needs to do that.
This is not, I mean, if you really dig down deep, this is not really a sports movie. This is ultimately a melodrama about the Babe and his life off of the field. And maybe that's shame on me for going into this hoping that it was going to be a sports movie in the more traditional mold, but we didn't get that here. It really is so. We didn't get the Arthur Hiller of those other pictures. We got the Arthur Hiller of Love Story, which it never pretended to be anything other than this sappy melodrama about these two kids at Harvard. That's what we're getting here. It's I wanted to see the Babe and his baseball exploits a little more or a lot more, and I got none of that.
If this had been a slice of life of Babe Ruth, maybe like going through the divorce or getting we find out about his kid or any of the travails, like if we had focused intimately on that and just jettisoned baseball entirely, then I think Arthur Hiller would have been the perfect filmmaker for this. Unfortunately, there's a lot of goddamn baseball in it, and none of it is exciting.
And would you go to see a movie about Babe Ruth that did not have at least the promise of baseball action, baseball footage, everything that goes into a sports movie? I don't know that I would have been that excited if this had been billed as a melodrama that covered everything but his baseball exploits. That's not interesting to me. Maybe, I don't know.
I
But
remember the movie Wonderland. It was with Val Kilmer, actually.
oh yeah. John Holmes movie.
Right, where the movie begins and there's an opening crawl which tells us all about John Holmes's exploits in the adult entertainment industry, about how crazy it was and how fucking fantastic it all was. And then it says this movie takes place after that. And you're like, ah, like literally in the theater that I saw it and somebody went, ah.
Yeah, that part of it was rather disappointing, but maybe that's just not the movie that they were trying. Maybe they tried to have their cake and eat it too. But I don't see how you can have a movie about Babe Ruth and not have equal coverage given to the baseball stuff and not have the baseball stuff be super exciting and super kinetic. Well, maybe not, doesn't have to be like jump cuts and 80s style, but it has to be interesting to the viewer. And it was, like I said, it boiled down to was him at the plate, smacking a home run, go on to the next scene. It was boring to me.
You said this is a melodrama, and that's ultimately what it reminded me of. And it ultimately, the problem, and I apologize, Mr. Fusco, the problem with the screenplay is this feels like a biography from the 1950s or 60s as far as its construction. It's the life of the guy. So because that's our story, we're telling the story of Babe Ruth. There's no plot at all. It's just a series of events of his life, which is how every biography has always been done. This is more warts and all than you would have gotten in the 50s or 60s, but it's not that far off, honestly.
It was very conventional in that way. This could have come, like you said, like Pride of the Yankees, a movie like that, which is just the kind of high level view of the athlete, and like I said, more hagiography. This isn't that, but it comes damn close, and it certainly doesn't. It just the disheartening part of it is it just seemed disinterested in all of the stuff that should have been really exciting and a slam dunk, like the baseball scenes. It just didn't seem to care about that part of it.
Not only that, but okay, here's my hot take on the movie. Watching the movie, and I'm not enjoying it, right? And then we get to about an hour and a half into it. And suddenly there's a teammate. You just mentioned the pride of the Yankees, Iron Man, who's a competitor of Ruth's. And this is like 1926, 27. And if you look at Babe Ruth's life, around then, 1926, 27, that's around the time when he hit the most home runs he ever hit, 60 home runs. That should be the most exciting part. Why this movie did not begin in 1926. I didn't need to know one fucking thing about his early life. You know why? Because I still don't know one fucking thing about his early life.
And the thing with Lou Gehrig was they had a real rivalry. They did not like each other for most of their playing days, and they do pay some lip service to that, where there's a scene where Babe Ruth is on the downward sort of trajectory and Gehrig is on the upswing, and Gehrig hits a home run, and I think Babe Ruth is just sulking, saying, lucky hit. But they didn't do anything. By the way, fun fact, the guy who played Lou Gehrig in this movie is an actor named Michael McGrady. Did you recognize who that was, Father Malone?
No.
Now, let me preface this by saying I'm going to pepper more of these things in. I also wasn't really enjoying a lot of what I was seeing in this movie. So, but fortunately for me, this movie is positively peppered with interesting actors in little tiny roles here and there, and this was one of them. So the actor Michael McGrady was in the movie Back to School. Now think about the scene in Back to School where the bar.
I know exactly. Okay, go ahead. No.
No, it's after Rodney Dangerfield does Twist and Shout, and one of the football players come in complaining that some anarchists have like spray painted or they threw paint all over their rally. And the head football player is the guy who played Lou Gehrig, this actor, Michael McGrady. He's the guy who says he's holding Robert Downey Jr. by the face. And he says, you call his mother. You tell him he's never coming home. I said, that's crazy. I know this guy. I was tickled by that.
That's hilarious. No, I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
There's a few others I'll bring up when they come up. But actually, here's another one. Ruth's dad, Babe Ruth's dad, where there's a scene where he brings his son to the to the school for boys, whatever it's called. Actor named Robert Swan.
St. Mary's Industrial School for Boys.
Very bleak. The actor's name is Robert Swan. It's hard to see because honestly, a lot of this movie was murky and wasn't very crisp. But the actor Robert Swan, he's been in a bunch of things. What I remember him from was he was the Mountie captain in the movie The Untouchables. We do not approve of your methods.
You're not from Chicago. I love that guy. Yeah, he was the dad. Oh my god, that's so crazy.
Anyway,
you know what? Can we talk about?
Yeah.
Okay, so that scene, they drop him off at the school orphanage, right?
Yeah.
Did you assume that he was now an orphan?
Did I assume he was? Not. My assumption as a viewer was that they were going to come back and get him at some point. I didn't realize. I don't know how true that is. I don't think that's totally true that they just left him there for 12 years to fend for himself. I think there's a little more contact in that. But I didn't assume that he was going to be there for 12 years, which is awful. Why? What did you think?
No, that is what happened actually, and it's really horrible. I
thought they had some contact with his parents over the years. I don't know about his mother, but I thought his father was still around. It's terrible if that's not the case. It's sad.
No, they never came back for him.
Oof.
Ever. And I do think they might have had some correspondence, but his father, I guess, often promised to come, but never did.
That's terrible. But no, I guess I didn't, just as a compassionate person. Maybe I hoped that they would not leave him there to just let the brothers deal with him, but sad.
I just okay. Look, Trini Alvarado, who I think is great in this mission. I think she's doing a really great job considering she just needs to be reacting to all of his terrible behavior and then forgiving him when she gets a gift.
Yeah, she's quite natural. She had a moment at this time. I remember going to see Stella. I think that might have been one of her first movies, and she was in Little Women. She was in a bunch of stuff
She
around
was
this
the
time.
drummer in Satisfaction, baby.
That's right. Like I said, she had a moment.
The Justine Bateman classic. I saw that in the theater. Liam Neeson is in that fucking movie.
You saw Satisfaction in the theater?
HP up until I'd say 2010. I saw everything in the.
I just said that having just admitted that I saw Stella in the theater. So I guess there goes my argument. So it's no longer valid.
What's next? Oh, okay. So we're talking about Trini Alvarado here.
Trini Alvarado. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, and we're talking about that character in particular who he was 19, she was 16 when they married. And things were fine for a few years there. Lived in Boston for 5 years. They lived in the Back Bay. We don't really see any of that. Time is a problem in this movie because they span so much of it, and just giving us a title card doesn't mean a fucking thing, honestly.
There's not a lot of signposting in this movie. You're right. You would never have thought that he was supposed to be 19 when they met and fell in love, because he looks every bit that 40-year-old with his dyed hair. Anyway, go ahead.
Now, look, if you want to do this expose of Ruth, that he does do some horrendous things. Like basically every time he acts out, he just brings something home as a present, and then that smooths things over. He's seen in the paper, he's crashed a car on a drunken spree with a 16-year-old girl. It's in the fucking newspapers. She's thumbtacking it to the wall in the house. And so he shows up with a pair of horses, and that's going to smooth things over. It's okay, baby. I bought you some horses. Which leads to the ultimate, which is he brings home a child because they can't have children, because she wants a child this whole time. They want to start a family. And he brings it home as if he's gotten it from an adoption agency, when the fact is this is his child, but from one of his mistresses.
I read that also. I wasn't aware of that. And because I'm watching that scene where he brings this child home, and just on the face of it, it's a pretty scary thing. Like, how can you just bring home a baby? Maybe adoptions were a little more loosey-goosey back in the teens or the 20s. But the fact is, like you said, 3 or 4 scenes before, he's bringing home horses to smooth things over. Now he's bringing home a baby girl to smooth things over. And so then I had to go, all right, I need to know the real story behind this child. Did he truly just adopt a baby and bring it home? And that's when I read, like you did, I read today that, oh no, this was a birth of one of his mistresses. So it was actually his blood relative.
And they don't cover that.
They don't, which I think is a much more interesting thing, like line to follow, right?
Yeah, man. Look, the ultimate sin of this movie is it's trying to fucking tell too much. I say this every time we talk about a biography. Larry Karaszewski and Scott Alexander figured out the fucking method to make a biography, which is find the moment that person is important and tell that story. And they could have told this story. They could have told this if we want to know the story of Babe Ruth and his family life and all of this fucked up shit he was doing, that would be fascinating. But we're not getting that. But we are being told that story without some of those details, obviously. We're getting all of that. This movie starts and he's 7 years old. Don't do that.
Too much. It was too much. And I agree, Karaszewski. Those movies, Ed Wood, they're master classes in how to do a biography to make it interesting, make it funny, make it poignant, which this wants to be all of those things. It wants to tug at the heartstrings. And I'm just left cold by the whole thing because it just doesn't really, it's not adding up for me as a viewer watching this.
People versus Larry Flint, Karaszewski and Alexander's screenplay there, that even opens with a scene of Larry Flint as a child, and I don't mind it because it's fucking brief. It just like sets up who this fucking guy is, and then we jump right into the story, and we get the story from here to here. And they actually do a span of time in that movie. That's about at least a 10 or 15-year period, which is what this movie is essentially telling us from from age 19 to 36. But it's just a series of events that happened, as opposed to, it doesn't feel like we're on a train going anywhere.
Yeah, you're right. There's no real momentum that's carrying you through this. Something that it's leading up to. I think you're absolutely right on that. And maybe that's why it, it just felt inert to me. It didn't really have a lot of snap, like you said, like a good sports movie should have snap. Any movie that has emotion, that has some interesting aspects to it should grab you. And I was never grabbed in that way.
What did you like about the movie?
I was thinking about, I'm a little conflicted about one thing. I haven't decided if I really like it or not. I'm a little, I'm at loggerheads about the soundtrack, about Elmer Bernstein's soundtrack. Is it Bernstein or Bernstein? I keep mispronouncing it.
I think it's Bernstein.
So Bernstein, Elmer Bernstein, who I love. I know you love too.
HP, did I just ask you to name something you liked about it? Now you're going to slag off Elmer Bernstein?
No, I'm saying that I think it's a good soundtrack, but my dilemma is I don't think it's a good soundtrack for this movie. I think objectively it's a great soundtrack. It has the sort of fanfare of horns. It wants to make the movie exciting. It wants to make it propulsive in a way that the actual story isn't. So I guess in isolation, I really like the music because I think Emma Bernstein is a fantastic composer. I just don't think it was the right match again, it's something that doesn't really match the tone of the movie, I guess.
I thought his score would have been great in that 1950s or 60s version of this movie.
And that's it. It's a real throwback soundtrack, which maybe I just wanted something a little bit more modern and a little more subdued. But this, you're getting like I said, fanfare of horns as he's calling his shot out to center field. It wants to be exciting and it wants to give you that feeling of, wow, this guy's a sports giant. But it just didn't. But objectively, I think it's a great soundtrack.
Do you know that Babe Ruth had a vaudeville show in between seasons while he was on the Yankees?
I've heard that, and I think the trailer had a scene with him doing his show, but we don't actually see any of that in the movie itself, I don't think.
Do you know that he was making triple his salary outside of his Yankees salary?
With endorsements and stuff?
Yeah. Yes. Babe Ruth was a fucking superstar. Babe Ruth was the first fucking sports superstar. He was the endorsement guy. He did everything. And that's an angle we could have gone on.
Yeah. He was, I was actually on the Wikipedia page, I think they make reference. I guess he starred in a silent movie, which unfortunately has been lost, as many of these, I'm sure a lot of movies from that time period have been lost. But I'd love to see that. Babe Ruth acting in a silent movie, that'd be awesome.
There is footage of him. There's plenty of footage of Babe Ruth if you want to see it. He would show up in things as Babe Ruth. Hey, and here's my friend Babe Ruth.
Sure. It's just one of those things I think it would be interesting to see. Because I don't know, silent movie acting and seeing him do that sort of pantomiming, I think would have been interesting. Because I've seen all the usual footage of him like swinging the bat and winking and trotting out the bases and stuff. I can't get over, by the way, it makes me more and more annoyed how big John Goodman is in this. Just he's too big. I would have loved to have seen, like you said, like a Dennis Franz or something, someone who's a little more svelte. I think it would have been more impactful when he finally does go.
Like,
because the whole point of it is later in life is when he really let himself go, and that's when the jeers of, hey, get out of here, you can't run the bases anymore, you suck. That would have been much more impactful if you see the younger, more robust Babe Ruth who could really do it. Let me ask you, Father Malone, what's something you really loved about this movie?
I thought the fucking production design and the costumes were spectacular.
I agree. Actually, you're right. It actually seemed very spot on. The uniforms and everything, sure.
And just the people on the streets. There are hundreds of extras in this movie. Not discounting just the scenes in the stadium. There are tons of on the street sequences. He's riding motorcycles on fucking sidewalks and just like running into people. And all of that seems like it could be backlot. I don't know if it was or not. And I think that's a fucking triumph of the movie and the cinematography during those sequences. And it's so easy in a big old period piece like this to have at least a portion of the costumes look like costumes, and none of them did here. It all looked like people from the 20s and
It
early
looked
30s.
authentic. I totally agree. It looked authentic. There's a scene where Babe he's gotten lost, or they can't find him, and finally his second wife and Bruce Boxleitner's character find him, and they take him to basically shower him to sober him up because he's drunk. And Bruce Boxleitner is taking off his pants so that they can bathe him. And I'm watching this, and you can tell that the material of the pants, it's not just some kind of like fake textile that you would have now, not spandex, but something like you could see that the material was basically like a cotton because of the way it's folding and rumpling as he's pulling it off. The hats, like the baseball hats, all have that like very distinct 20s profile with a very small brim. And that all looked the look and feel of it was great. I totally agree with you there.
Now, about those uniforms, do you think those were very uncomfortable? Was
Well,
George Costanza right? Should we have brought back the cotton uniforms? I think we should. The look of them is so great.
it is great, but wasn't he proven wrong? Because didn't they try to, someone like, was it like, what the hell's his name? Didn't Derek Jeter like slide into home, and because it was cotton, it all basically all eroded when he took his slide and he got a bruise or something on his leg? Wasn't that the whole thing where it couldn't hold up to sliding into home?
Is that what it was? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Everyone should be wearing those uniforms.
They're also very baggy. I just think that's part of the charm and the look of it is when you see one of those old timey pitchers do the old time wind up, and it's the uniforms are basically hanging off of them because they're not very well tailored at that time. There is a charm to that, but I guess I don't know. I'm fine with modern day textiles, I guess.
Oh, but the profile of those uniforms, man.
But you'd want those little beanies to come back too.
Hell yeah. And those big wonky gloves that just are like a real glove. It's just a leather, like a Mickey Mouse hand.
I see what you're saying. I don't know. Maybe they should. It's funny because in football, occasionally they'll have a game and they'll do throwback uniforms.
Oh, do they have like a leather helmet?
No, they don't go that far.
Ah.
But like for the Patriots, they'll go back to the old Pat Patriot logo of the Patriot who's hiking the ball.
Oh my
which was
God. I love that logo.
But I guess my point is they don't ever do anything quite like that with baseball. And I think it's a missed opportunity. If they all had the knickerbockers and like the hat and the old style gloves like you described, that would be great.
Just an exhibition game. What would be wrong with that?
I think it would be if it would be good for a few laughs. And I think if it's just, I mean, look, they play so many games in a season. What is it, 182 games? Or 162 games, excuse me. You can't take one meaningless game and just dress them up as they were in 1919. I think that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, but remember there was a joke on Futurama because the Blurns ball is what it is in the future. And they say, yeah, oh no, they jazzed it up back in the 23rd century. And he goes, baseball doesn't need, hey, they jazzed it up.
No, I like the way you're thinking on this. I think that would bring a lot of people to the sport, I think. I mean, who wouldn't want to see these guys playing in these old-timey uniforms? That'd be awesome.
I mean, look, clearly they don't need any attendance isn't waning at the ballpark these days, but we're getting some here in Las Vegas, everybody. We're getting a ball team.
You are?
Yeah, man, we're still the Athletics.
Oh, so that actually is happening.
The Las Vegas A's, they just approved the stadium.
They're not even changing the name. They're going to stay the A's.
Yeah, man.
Well, that kind of sucks.
The Raiders
why couldn't
didn't
they be
change
like
their name.
The Las Vegas Dealers or the Aces or something? That's a missed opportunity right there.
Next up, basketball. Looking at you, Celtics.
It's a tough week for Celtics fans.
Speaking of Boston, we get the Green Monster. We get the Green Monster kid.
A little bit, but it's again, these ballparks are so interchangeably filmed in this movie that it's hard to get any sense for that.
It said Fenway Park on the screen, and I went, hey, we're at Fenway. And then they showed a green wall, and I went, hey, the Green Monster.
But they also did that thing that I hate. I think you brought this up when we did the late lamented Banachek podcast. At one point, they're playing in Fenway Park, and the Red Sox manager, I think Babe Ruth hits a home run or something, and the Red Sox manager says, "No one's ever done that at Fenway." Like his emphasis is totally on the wrong. Like it should have been Fenway, the hard syllable on the first syllable, but he says Fenway, which tells me that I don't know. It's they should have caught that. It just seemed silly. It's like Scully Square when
Yeah,
Banachek's talking about that.
that's the big one. Yeah, Scully Square. If you look at the word Scully written out Scollay, yeah, Scully. That's what it says, right? No, not if you're from Boston. And there's a Scully Square reference in the Perfect Storm, and he shouldn't even be mentioning Scully Square. Scully Square's been government center for fucking ever. But fucking George Clooney's out there talking about Scully Square. I'm like, what? First of all, you wouldn't be talking about it. Second of all, you wouldn't be saying it that way, baby.
No. But in fairness, the Boston area is filled with hard to pronounce cities and towns like Worcester. Worcester is spelled Worcester. So if you're not from here, that's how you would pronounce it, but it's Worcester. Wooster. It's pronounced like, or even I'm from a place called Peabody. But when I went to school in the Midwest for college, they would always say, "Oh, you're from Peabody." It became like a joke in my friend group. So anyway, they fell into that trap.
There is Mr. Peabody in Sherman.
This is true. So that's even more of a reason why they should have understood that actually they call him Peabody.
That's why. Okay. That's what I'm saying. I called it Peabody because I grew up next to you.
That's right. That's true. But anyway, it's funny that didn't catch your ear also, but like the fact that he said Fenway, it's like it's almost like you have to think harder to pronounce it that way. It's an intentional thing because you should naturally just say Fenway. I don't know. It bugged me, Father Malone.
Final regional reference, light dawns on Marblehead.
That's it. That's your Massachusetts Minute. Thank you, everybody.
Jumpin' Joe Dugan didn't get on to the Red Sox until after Babe Ruth had already left.
Yeah, I read that too. A lot of this is surprising because as we've talked about John Fusco and Young Guns 2 in particular, he is very much a stickler for historical detail. I think we've spoken his praises with that, the fact that, he takes some liberties when necessary, but that was a little surprising too, that these little details didn't quite add up.
Now, I've now said that I think this movie should have begun already well into his career. He should have already been married to Claire, who's played by Kelly McGillis in this movie. He has this on-again, off-again romance with this woman who is Ty Cobb's manager or accountant or something at some point when he first meets her, and they end up getting married, and that's the actual good part of the movie is during that scene.
Kelly McGillis is really good in this, by the way. I think the fact that I don't know if she just stopped acting out of choice or maybe the roles weren't coming to her for whatever reason, but she was really good in her quote unquote heyday. She's really good in this. I thought she was very genuine.
If the most recent thing I saw her in was Ty West's film The Innkeeper, and she was great in it.
Oh, right on. I have not
in it.
I've had that forever. I've not had a chance to watch it, but I will check it out now. Did you realize that we had a bit of a 6 degrees of Fusco in this movie?
No.
Can I walk you through this a little bit? Take a moment.
Oh, please do.
So towards the end, when Babe Ruth is playing for the Boston Braves and he's on the downswing, they're playing Pittsburgh, and the pitcher for Pittsburgh, it's like this thing. They have a bit of a duel, and the pitch is really trash talking Babe, and of course this ends with the Babe hitting a home run. The pitcher for Pittsburgh, did you recognize who it was, Father Malone?
No.
See, once I say the actor, you're going to know exactly where I'm going with this, but I'm going to go ahead anyway. The actor's name is a guy named Richard Tyson, who you and I both know.
3 o'clock high. 3 o'clock high.
Buddy Revell from 3 O'Clock High, the antagonist, one of our favorite movies, 3 O'Clock High.
We'll add that can be our other school thing.
It should be, because that's a fantastic
high school, and then a bunch of college.
So think about this. Okay, so in The Babe, we have Richard Tyson from 3 O'Clock High. The Babe is written and produced by John Fusco. In 3 O'Clock High, we also have Casey Shamasco, who is the protagonist. Casey Shamasco was, of course, in Young Guns, another John Fusco written movie. So there we have it. 6 degrees of Fusco between Casey Shamasco and Richard Tyson. I was delighted by this.
He fucks up Richard Tyson in that movie.
He does at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, he lays him out. It's great.
Richard Tyson is so good in that movie.
Yes, he
I love that
is.
movie. He's like he's every nerd's nightmare, the bully that is just waiting to kick your ass at 3. And there's nothing you can do about it. No matter what you do or say or plead or beg or bribe, nothing. He's implacable in that.
Richard Tyson has one scene basically in Black Hawk Down. I think he has maybe 2 lines in the entire movie. And him and those lines made me love that character and made me really sad when he got killed.
He's so good. I got to see what he's been up to. I haven't seen too much with him for a while, and it'd be a shame because he's so good.
At a certain point, Babe Ruth's first wife, Helen, dies in a house fire. And now he has to take care of his child, who is his child, which we would like to have known, but we didn't know. It's just this adopted girl. And first of all, the way they deal with that is they just have her sitting in the dugout with him and him like hugging her tight for a few shots, right? That's the fallout from the mother dying, and now that we don't, there's no scene between those two ever, first of all. And now, okay, that's the movie. Now, I just read about how a month prior to that house fire, Babe Ruth had met with Helen Ruth to secure a divorce, and she said he could have one for $150,000. And then 1 month later, while she's alone in the house, there's a mysterious house fire. Did Babe Ruth kill her?
Interesting. Was it a deal where maybe, yeah, I don't know. I can't say that. That would have been an interesting thread to pull on a little bit. Maybe would have added some, because look, we've seen him do a lot of reprehensible things in this movie. We saw him hold his manager over, like the manager comes down on him and tells him he's going to be cut or something. And he picks up the manager while he's on a moving train and threatens to drop him from the caboose.
Okay.
So I
Here's
guess
the thing. Here's the thing about that scene. That scene starts out really, really fucking good. It's the first time that John Goodman actually seems like a fucking cocksucker. Like when he gets mad and throws that tray over, that's not the part. When he approaches Trini Alvarado, he slaps a glass out of her hand. And it's the first time that you felt the weight of this man's actions in the movie. And the movie came alive for a minute with his anger, because John Goodman can get there. He can get there. Even if he's a decent guy, he can get to that fucking level of anger. But then when he goes to dangle the fucking guy out of the back of the train, it just felt like more comedic almost, or just not visceral enough. It never felt like there was any danger to anybody. It seemed like that guy was just sitting there with his shoulders on the back of that thing. And John Goodman had him, and he might have been wired up, or I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And the fact that in all of our research, there was never a factoid about the manager that Babe Ruth killed by throwing him off a train. So I knew instinctively that the guy was really in no danger of actually being killed by Babe Ruth. So that part of it, I don't know. You're right. It is played a little bit for not comedy, but it didn't feel as electric, like you said, as the prior part of that scene where the threat of real physical violence is in the air when he loses control. And I can't help wondering, given the time, that I don't know, could Babe Ruth have been someone who could have been really physically abusive towards women? I think it's probably pretty likely. I don't know. I don't
Well,
want to impugn the man's character, but
nor do I, but there is that level of anger, obviously. I mean, he was abandoned as a child, and he basically plays a children's sport for a living where he's given millions, not millions, but I guess for rated for inflation, he's basically getting millions of dollars and free
the
reign
equivalent. I mean, he's making $125,000 in 1925 or whatever. That's got to be a few million now. I mean, I haven't run the numbers, but sure, he was making. They take pains to say that he's making more money than the president at that time, who was probably considered the guy. So
Yeah, so obviously he was capable of anything. And I just thought that one scene, we got a bit of what it probably felt like to be around the man.
let me ask you about something else that I had real a real problem with in this movie. At the spoiler alert, we're going to talk about the very end of the movie. So this movie traffics in the myth
Called shot.
almost. No, what I'm talking about now is when he goes to visit the little boy in the hospital
The called
who
shot.
he doesn't, he tells him he's going to hit it. The called shot is when he points to center field and says, I'm going to hit. But in that case, he says, I'm going to hit a home run for you. No, two. Now, a couple things before I even get to what I'm talking about is number one, that it didn't happen that way. I believe Babe Ruth sent him some autographed balls. Like I think the team signed a ball and basically said to him, yeah, he never met with the boy in person, is what I'm saying. I think that's another example of this movie sort of trafficking in an old timey sports biopic sort of tropes to have him, I'll hit one for you, Sonny. Oh, no, two. So number one, it wasn't even two. He only promised he was going to try to hit one ball for the kid.
Could you just win one for the Gipper?
So that's, but anyway, that's all preamble to what I'm getting at. So the thing that cappered all of this, and the thing that kind of made me most frustrated, is at the very end of the movie when the Babe has finally had his last at bat with the Boston Braves. He's coughing up blood. This is all foreshadowing of his eventual demise at the hands of throat cancer. He's walking back. He's quit. He's handed in his hat or his cap to the manager and says, I'm done. I'm finished. And he's walking through the tunnel. And this guy comes out of nowhere and says, hey, Babe, I'm Johnny Sylvester. I'm the kid that you visited in the hospital and blah, blah, blah. And here, this ball you gave me, it's always given me magic. And hey, I wanted to give it back to you because you're the greatest. And then he walks away. I don't know. It was so unearned to me. And that seemed to me the worst offender as far as making this seem like Pride of the Yankees or the Babe Ruth story with William Bendix or something. That to me was like so, I hated that ending. What did you think?
I thought, yeah, it's unearned. There's probably ways to have baked it in that would have made it acceptable. If we had met him, that kid earlier in the movie as an adult, and then it's revealed I was that kid, here's the ball, that maybe could have worked. But the way they've done it is he says, yeah, I'm the kid. Here's the ball you gave me. I just wanted to thank you. And then he says, I'm gone, Johnny. I'm gone. And then starts staggering away. If they had just watched him stagger down the rest of the fucking hallway and out in one continuous take, then I could have been down with it. But unfortunately, Johnny yells after him, you're the best. You're the best that's ever been.
That's what I'm talking about. It felt like, I don't know. I got flashbacks to that old, was it Dr. Pepper with Mean Joe Green?
Exactly what I was thinking of. The fucking the handing over the jersey to the kid who's gifted him his Dr. Pepper.
The Dr. Pepper. It just seemed, I don't know. There's other ways. It was like the Deus Ex Machina isn't the right. It was like a boy Ex Machina. Like this, he just came out of nowhere. This kid that we haven't thought of for 3/4 of the movie, and all of a sudden, hey, remember me? I was part of that special moment that, by the way, it never really happened. And here, you're the greatest, babe. You're the greatest. Don't ever forget. And that, I don't know. It just seemed an odd note to end the movie on. I just didn't feel the heroism of his final at bat and his prowess at the bat because of all the things we've already talked about with the issues we had, how the sport was depicted.
Yeah, and it's too episodic in nature to have led up to that. I didn't feel his last time at bat any more weight than I felt his first or the third or the seventh. It was, we knew he was gonna hit it. We knew he was gonna knock the ball out of the park, man. That's what he does.
Exactly. Do you think this is, I mean, is this something that you would ever consider recommending to someone who likes baseball, or are there things you can pull out of this that make you feel like it's a worthwhile watch?
I'm not going to recommend this movie, unfortunately. There are going to be bumps on the Fusco Road, but this is not an example of a biopic that I would offer to anyone. I would tell you to read about Babe Ruth, I think, before I pointed you in this direction, because it doesn't really work dramatically as just a movie where, hey, we're going to take the basic facts of the guy's life and we're going to embellish it and fucking go for it, which is one way to do it and definitely could have, or you're going to tell the facts of his life. And when you're not going to get the facts of his life correct, then I can't recommend it that way. Or I could if the direction was fucking great, or the fucking music was appropriate, or the lead performance was fantastic, and none of those things happened.
Yeah. I really wanted to like this movie because obviously we're deep into Fusco Fest and we've had some really killer movies. Loved Young Guns 1 and 2, obviously, and Crossroads, of course. I think you're right. I think there's sometimes we're going to have some bumps in the road along the way. And I wanted to like it, but it just didn't add up. Like you said, it didn't really work dramatically. It didn't work as a sports picture. It didn't work. The direction didn't seem appropriate. So I don't think I could really recommend it either. It pains me to say it, but here we are.
I'm glad we did them out of order because next up on Fusco Fest, everybody, to tune in next time, we're going to be talking about Thunderheart. I'm going to play the preview for it right here. That's right. We are going to be talking about Thunderheart on the next Fusco Fest. Until then, HP, where can people find you when they want to hear all of your delicious tones, your mellifluous musical moments?
My mushmouth. You can find me. I'm elsewhere on the Weirding Way Network. I co-host the Night Mr. Walters Taxi podcast alongside my erstwhile co-host Father Malone right here. I'm an occasional guest on the Culture Cast with Chris Dashew. I also host the Noise Junkies music podcast, and to top everything off, I have a Bandcamp site, hpmusicplace.bandcamp.com.
Yeah, go check out his music over there. That album is fucking great. Speaking of Culture Cast, I programmed the month of May. Those should be coming out soon. And in fact, the first one features Mr. HP right here and myself and Chris Dashew, where we were discussing the films of John Milius over there. And for our debut, we chose Magnum Force, the second in the Dirty Harry films. That should be out soon. Go listen to that. As for me, keep it right here, everybody, here on Midnight Viewing every Sunday and or Monday. You got a Father Malone Weekly Roundup every Friday. We have a rotating assortment of programs, including Fusco Fest and Anthologies Attack and the Horror Anthology podcast itself. If you want to give us a hand, help us out in any way, please go to patreon.com/Father Malone. Subscribers get all episodes early and commercial free. And if you want to help us without paying any money, and who can blame you these days, then just subscribe or follow or like or give us 5 stars or write a few nice words about us. And if you want to get in touch with me, go to fathermalone71@gmail.com. Drop me a line there, or at Father Malone on all the socials. You're more likely to find me there. Until next time, going to leave you with a bit of John Goodman from Saturday Night Live.
Thank you so much. Well, this year I am here to plug a movie, and it's one I'm very proud of. The Babe. It's the life story of Babe Ruth, but believe me, it's a far cry from those old-fashioned baseball. It's an objective examination of the Babe's very celebrated but very turbulent life. And like I said, I'm very proud, and I'd like to show you some clips.
I'm Babe. I'm the Babe. I'm the Babe. The Bambino, the Babe, I'm the Babe, home run baseball, I'm Babe.
Thank you. Like I said, this is a different view of the Babe, warts and all. We look into events in Babe's life that historians had never really examined. See what I mean?
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.